Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Jon Guild, Senior Security Consultant here at Bishop Fox. Excited to kind of pick up where we left off back in October, where we basically looked at a Active Directory domain and looking at various ways to pass it and some of my insights into the OSCP exam. Before anything else, kind of want to give a quick introduction again about myself. I've been here at Bishop Fox since 2022. With that, I served in the Air Force before and was managing one of the largest Active Directory domains in the world. And I got my commission from Penn State. I graduated in 2013. And that's kind of where everything started for me, kind of where I kicked off my career. During this training session, like I said, we're going to pick up where we left off last time. We're going to really focus on Sliver, a lot of the tradecraft that I use. And we're going to finish off by owning the rest of the domain and even get up to enterprise admin with that. And afterwards, if you guys feel free to hang out afterwards, I'm going to be in the Bishop Fox Red Set Discord and the Hacker Lounge. And if you guys want to have any questions or just chat and hang out, I'll be there. So without further ado, let's go over to the attacker machine.
Over here on our attacker machine, from those of you that tuned in last time, you will notice that it looks a little bit different. That's just aesthetics. On my own desktop, we still have the game of Active Directory domain going on in the background running on VirtualBox. Shortened to called GoAd. So that's still there. We're still using Sliver and everything. So everything is pretty much still the same. And in fact, I just wanted to touch on GoAd. Since the last time we did the live stream, it's kind of gone through, I won't say like a big update, but some changes were there. So if those of you who have installed the environment, if you like what you have going on, you don't need to update it. But if you want to get the latest and greatest, do a git pull, get the latest one. And yeah, it's just, he added a few more attack paths. It's nothing too crazy. The requirements are still there and everything, but I found that it is a bit easier to install and set up. I didn't really run into any issues. And also on his Discord, he is pretty good at answering any questions. So definitely install and update if you guys haven't. That's the big thing. And in fact, one other thing is that on his Twitter, he posts all the different attack paths that you guys can go through. So I know it's a bit complicated. There's like a lot of stuff on the screen. We're going down this bottom path here to get to King's Landing, which is the end goal. But you can see all the different paths that are there. So if you've there's no shortage of things to do in this domain, which is nice. But here, this is like a simplified version, just from the same GitHub we were just looking at. Just to quickly recap, we are currently in this esos.local domain. We're going to do a quick recap. I just want to show this overview here. After compromising Bravos, we're going to the domain controller called Marine. And then from there, we're going to abuse the trust to get over to King's Landing and own the entire domain. So with that, it's actually a pretty good segue to jump over here. So just want to do a quick recap for those that were here last time. And if not, this is what we did to get to where we are right now. So last time we started on our Kali machine and we did an AS rep roast. We had a list of all the different Game of Thrones users. We just kind of pulled that down and we just made like a quick list such as, cal.drogo or, k drogo, just different various methods of that. And as we figured out, we did get cal drogo to crack. Password was horse. That was pretty straightforward. So after cracking that account, we were actually able to own Bravos, the server that he isn't an administrator on. So you can just, evil 1rm over to it. And that's it, you owned it. So after that, we did some enumeration. We used Bloodhound, and we took a look at the environment and what's running there. We did see that Khal Drogo does have an account, has generic all over the Viserys Targaryen account. And with generic all, we are able to actually override his password. Viserys can RDP to Marine, and so that gives us our low privilege user on the Marine account, on the Marine domain controller. So we come over here. This is what it looks like in Bloodhound. Here's where we started with Khal Drogo. I should probably go through, mark him as owned. Boop. He has the generic all over Viserys, like I said. If you go to help, you can definitely look at the Windows abuses and Linux abuses here. But in this case, we just did a forced change password. This is something that if you were to do in the real world, make sure you have, permission from your client. You don't want to be changing people's passwords and actually locking them out, especially if they are a big user. But it's not saying it's not a viable attack path. It definitely is. Just make sure that you can. If it comes to like, an exam or you're doing something like in a lab, go more, do it, go wild, have fun. And here it is how we ran that essentially. And you can do it from Linux as well. That's right there. And with Viserys, we can RDP because he's a member of the Targaryen group. And I guess the group can RDP over to Marine. And that is our target, and that's where we're at. And where we stopped last time was that we were trying to do a privilege escalation on Marine. So let's go back over here and let's quickly talk about our current attack path. I think it helps to go through like what is our next step on how we're going to own this domain and then follow up. Just so kind of brief, we're going to own the DC by using basically a no-fix privilege escalation called Curb Relay. There's just an all-in-one tool called Curb Relay Up. And after we have gained administrator on the domain controller, we can then abuse the trust with Seven Kingdoms, which is where King's Landing is. That's the top domain. And we're going to do that via making a golden ticket. And we're going to jump across that trust, and we'll talk more about it when we get there. The big thing about this, though, is that is this Curb Relay Up tool. Like I said, it's a no-fix privilege escalation. And there's many, many different ways to escalate your privileges on this domain controller. Not just in this domain, but like in general. There's many different ways you can go about, owning stuff in an AD environment. I like this way. It's not usually talked about. So I kind of want to show you guys. This is like a little gist of it. And if you Google Curb Relay, you'll see a lot of GitHubs or links that point back to this how-to document, which describes it. And this is what we're going to use. Basically, it's a no-fix local privilege escalation from low-privilege domain users, such as Viserys that we have, to local system on a domain joined computers. The prerequisites is that LDAP signing is not required on domain controllers, which is the default. And then we need to have the ability for the current domain user to add computers to the domain, or to have an own computer account. I guess the other part of it is that you can just have what's called a service account with an SPN set. So that's another way of doing that as well. Anyway, since by default any user can add 10 machines, we can create a computer. And LDAP signing is not enforced on the domain controller. That is the default setting of the GoAd domain. So that's great. And it kind of talks about here like how it works and what's going on. And it kind of goes through the steps on how to exploit it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're coming over here. We have our Sliver up. I have another little workspace down here. We can Evo 1RM, do stuff that we need to. And we got our recap over here. So let's privesc on Marine using Curb Relay. And looking at our walkthrough, if you guys didn't have the Sharp Hound on how you can run Bloodhound through Sliver, I left it up here for you guys. So that's it there. So we have 2 sessions currently. We have our Viserys Targaryen, and then we also have the Khal Drogo one, which is running as admin. So these are our 2 beacons that we have, and we're going to start with this session. So if we use 7B, we are now active with Viserys on the machine. You can even do a quick, info. Yeah, we are on Marine, and we are a low privilege user. If you do, who am I? Get privs. Yeah, we have like nothing. There's nothing to do here really. So how are we going to go about using this Curb Relay? Well, the first thing we need to do is we do need to add a computer account. So I'm actually going to grab this one to show you guys. This is one of my favorite tools, LDeep. It's a way of interacting with LDAP and doing queries without having to manually do them yourselves. So what we're doing is running LDeep, the command here. We're saying, hey, we're connecting to an LDAP server. Here's the user we're going to use, Khal Drogo, and a horse has his password on the domain. And here's the LDAP server, which is the Marine DC IP. And we're giving it the machines command. And there's only 3 machines. Marine, which is domain controller, Bravos, which we've compromised, and this GMSA Dragon. This is actually a different attack path that has now been included in GoAd. So if you guys want to explore what that is and how to use it, please go ahead. But basically for this, what we're showing here is we don't have our own machine account. So you can create a machine account if you install all of the different armory tools in Sliver. However, if we come up here, where is it? C2C, add machine account. I couldn't get it to work. It's one of those things where, like, if you were to, beat your head against the wall and get it to work, it would probably be great to use because you can just do it from here. For whatever reason, it's either the GoAd or my area, it just didn't work. And I'm going to go through a different way just to show you guys there's more than one way to add a computer account. So we're actually going to use the in-packet toolkit here. And we're going to use the add computer script. We give it the domain and Caldrogo with his password. And we're going to pass it the computer name Bishop Fox $. And then we're going to give it a computer password of password1. If you're doing this in real world, please use a better password. And then we're specifying the DCIP, which is Marine. We run it, successfully add a machine account with the password. We can verify that again, and boom, there it is. We have now added our own computer account to the environment. And why this matters is because by adding a computer account, it has an SPN set by default, which is what we're going to need for curb relay up. So here is the command. If you install Armory, the alias for this is already installed, so you get curb relay up. If you go back up here, you can actually find it as well. Boom, right there. And with that, we're just going to give it the 2 quotes to say, just to skip over any other commands that we need. And here's the actual commands that are going to get passed to the program itself. We're going to tell curb relay to use the relay method, and we're going to give it the method of resource-based constraint delegation. The other method you can do is shadow creds. I just didn't want to do that in this one. I think RBCD is a valuable thing to know how to use and exploit. And you will find this in many different organizations and different domains that accounts are configured for resource-based constraint delegation. So it's critical that you guys know this. So with that, I'm actually going to skip this part right here for a second. We're passing it the name of our computer, Bishop Fox $, and giving it the password, which is the password we made earlier, password1, and then the domain sos.local. Now, what we're actually doing here is that we are coercing the machine that we're on, the local machine, which is the domain controller in this case. And we are going to relay that coercion to the LDAP server and have it update. Go back over to here. We are going to have it update the MSDS allowed to act on behalf of other identity, which is just a fancy way of saying resource-based constraint delegation. Now, the reason this works is that any machine account is allowed to write to its own MSDS this. It can update its own value here. And the way resource-based constraint delegation works is that you, as the computer, are specifying who you are allowing to trust. So if there is another computer out there, you're basically saying, I will only trust, the Bishop Fox computer. That's what we're basically doing here, and that's what we're going to be abusing. So by relaying it to itself and writing to that attribute, we're telling it, hey, I'm going to trust this Bishop Fox computer with this password and everything. For this part here in the middle, if you go back and you read all this, you can actually run this check port and everything. It will give you a suitable port for the for COM. It'll give you what you need here. This is essentially, if anyone's done any privilege escalation with the rotten potato, juicy potato, god potatoes, any of the different potatoes out there, this is essentially the same idea. We're basically just tricking one of the services that's running as system and coercing it there. And what this CLS is actually the trusted installer CLS on a Windows 2019 server. What I ended up doing is that you can just use the GoAd domain, but if you have your own machine that you can replicate, you can actually run that program yourself and then get a valid CLS and a valid port. For the port, this is generally fine. You just need something that's going to go through basically the firewall, which is, that's fine. But the CLS can be tricky. If anyone has done like any of those privilege escalations and you try to get a CLS, it can be tricky. My workaround to that is to use the trusted installer CLS because it's basically there on any Windows machine. Windows machines have Windows Defender installed, and Windows Defender gets installed via the trusted installer. So if you grab the CLS for trusted installer, you're pretty much good to go. So you can find the one for 2016 server or 2022 server and then use that. So, that's actually a little homework if you guys want to, believe what I'm saying. Download a 2022 version and try to do this method and get the CLS for the trusted installer. But anyway, that's what we're doing here. We hit enter, and boom, we have actually done that. If you can see right here everything that it did, and essentially it's saying that we can now, if we go to here and type in delegations, you can see here that we have now configured our Bishop Fox computer account has resource-based constraint delegations to Marine. And same thing before here, I'm using LDeep, and you can run the delegations here. It's going to see who is allowed to delegate to what in the domain. And that's what this enabled. Just to show you, if we go back, let me do a cleanup here. We can actually remove this. Wanted to showcase that beforehand. So now it's actually gone. So if we run it again, you can see that only Marine has it. We no longer have that resource-based constraint delegation, but when we run this again, you can see that it's there. So what that's saying is that we are now able to perform a resource-based constraint delegation attack against the Marine server because we have this machine account that we have added. And we're going to use our favorite tool, Rubius, to do that. So here's the little pre-check we just showed you. And now we're going to use Rubius. So let's actually kind of walk through this part together. So actually, before that, one thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to Bravos. So we go back to sessions, use 9.5, just to kind of show how we're on a different machine. If we do a who am I, network how Drogo, get privs. Same, oh yeah, he's complete admin. It's great. We're actually going to do it from this remote machine since we already have the permissions that we need here. So let's grab this again, pop it in there, and let's walk through what we're doing here. We're running Rubius. We're going to do it in the session, so it's going to do within the beacon session. It's not going to spawn and run and do Rubius. And we're going to go through here, and this bypasses AMSI, and we're just trying to get the hash. So we want the RC4 hash of our Bishop Fox computer account, giving it the password and the domain. Run it again. There it is. Well, we got the RC4 hash. We also got the AES256. On modern Windows domains, the better upsec way of doing this is to use the AES256. RC4 is legacy and can be a bit of a red flag, especially if there's blue team on the network that's looking for stuff. They're like, hey, why is there an RC4 going across the network? So it's better to blend in and use the AES256. So let's go to the next part of this. Boom. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run the Rubius, and we're going to use the S4U module. We're going to give it the user Bishop Fox, and we're going to give it our AES256 password here, and we're going to tell it to impersonate the administrator user. Now, to be honest, you can actually skip this step and kind of go down and run this command here. The reason I'm not doing that is because I like to create a create net only program so we can migrate into it safely. It's just a cleaner way, so that way you're not just like messing up all the tickets on the current user that you have. We're basically dedicating it an environment for us to import different tickets. So that's what we're doing here. We're just getting the TGT. So it ran it. You can see the output here. We're basically using the S4U module. We got a TGT for our Bishop Fox computer, and from there it's using the S4U2 self to request a TGS for the administrator user based on the Bishop Fox computer account. And that's what this is. This is the ticket that we need, the TGS. So next part is we're actually going to create that net only. Now, if you saw, we were using the alias before Rubius here, and now we're going to execute assembly. The reason we're switching that up is because there is a limit within Sliver of 256 characters, and you need to pass it within the same process. So you can't really use the Rubius alias. You have to do the execute assembly. It's just a bit of a workaround. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to grab this, and you can see we're just doing the create net only. We're telling it to use cmd.exe, give it the domain sos.local, the username we want to use, administrator, and the password doesn't matter because we're using a ticket here. So you pass in the ticket, you hit enter, boom. Now we can migrate into this process. So if we do migrate, tech P 9924, successfully migrated. There it is. Use 336. And I'm going to use this new alias, this new extension, klist. If you guys want to be able to list out tickets, you can use Rubius. But if you do Sliver, Armory, Klist, go over here. Sliver Armory. There it is. You can kind of Google it, but Dave here, Cyberkilt, he actually ported it over to Sliver for everyone. You can just run this extension, this beacon object file, and it works great. So you can just easily run Klist to get a list of the tickets for your current session. So if we do Klist here, you can see that we do have that administrator user, and it's basically things that were on the Bishop Fox computer. Now, also just to know, the S4U module that was used, our ticket is currently not forwardable, so we can't really do much with it. We don't have that forward flag set there. But that's what we're going to do next. So we now migrate into our new session. We have a good environment where we can screw around with the tickets and everything. We're going to basically run the same command here. We're going to do Rubius S4U to self. User Bishop Fox, here's that password we did, impersonate administrator, and now we're going to be passing it the different services that we want to access. Since we want to be able to access the Marine domain controller, we want to access it remotely, we basically need access to its CIFS service. So we want to be able to read $, read the admin dollar share essentially. So we need CIFS with that. We can also give it the alt service. I put CIFS in here again. Don't really need to do that. Just keep the KRB TGT, but if you want to access other services, you can pop them in there. But with that, we give it the SS local, no wrap, and we're also going to do passing the ticket with the PTT. Hit enter, and there it is. So you can see all the different actions that Rubius did here. We're getting the TGT for the current machine account. That's what this ticket is. We're doing S4U to self. We're getting a TGS as the administrator user to ourselves, which is the Bishop Fox computer. This ticket is not forwardable. However, the undocumented part that you can actually read more on why resource-based constraint delegation works is that we can use S4U to proxy and pass it this non-forwardable ticket. What happens is that the domain controller will actually look at it and be like, I see you don't have constrained delegation. However, as a fallback, you do have resource-based constraint delegation set. So it allows that ticket to be used and gives us a forwardable ticket here. And this ticket is what's going to be allowing us to access the Marine server remotely. So we do an ls 1234 marine.sos.local $. Oh no. Pass it again. Oh, that did not work. Let's try this. Maybe I did need to do this. There we go. All right. I knew I had that CIFS in there. It got overwritten, so that's why that didn't work at all. A little troubleshooting there, but the idea is sound. So with that, we can now access the Marine server remotely. As you can see, we have now listed the $C shares. We have access to this domain controller remotely. If this was like a capture the flag, you can go to users, then go at administrator or something. You can see we have access to the administrator folder. But we're going to use my favorite lateral movement tool within Sliver, and that is psexec. Now, if you haven't created a psexec profile, you need to do that. You can see this command here, profiles, new, file type service. Like if you were going to use any of like the HTTP callbacks where you have a a beacon that reaches out for the stage 2. This is where you would configure that as well. But in this case, we're just saying, hey, we want to make a service. We're telling it to use MTLS with our IP and port. Disable Shikata Ganai. Here's the name. Go at psexec, and this is to disable symbol obfuscation. I already did this. If you go to profiles, you can see go at psexec. It's there. And this is how you actually run it. Whoop. Boom. You give it psexec, you give it the program you want it to run locally. So this is like what I want psexec to upload and execute on the remote server. I have my early bird. This is the malware we made last time in my workspace directory. The profile we're giving it is the one we made up here. Go at psexec. The service name is Bishop Fox. I'm actually going to give it something like Bishop Fox Livestream. And then the description, I don't know, hello world. Probably want to put something that's more OPSEC friendly, but I'm just going to put this. And then last but not least is the target, marine.sos.local. And now it's uploading the service binary using the $share to Windows tip, petticoat g.exe, waiting a bit for the file to be analyzed, and now it's starting the service. And it's starting the service remotely, and we should be getting a session back. And there it is. Even though it said that the service did not respond in a timely fashion, we did get a session back. So let's use 459. If we do a who am I? NT authority system. Get privs. That's it. We have now owned the marine domain. With this case, we are now able to, dump the KRB TGT hash, and we can make a golden ticket for anywhere within the domain. This is compromising. Sometimes what I would do at this point is make my own domain admin user, go from there. And now this is where we come to the next part. Let's actually mark this as home. And we're going to see how we can jump from Essos, from Marine, to King's Landing. And we're going to do that by abusing these trusts. So you can see that this is the north. This is the other path you can take to get here. This is the one we're focusing on. So we have a bi-directional trust from Essos to Seven Kingdoms. And when it comes to external trusts like this, you need to understand how we can abuse this. When it comes to parent-child relationships, once you compromise the child domain, this is not a security boundary. You can escalate from the child domain to the parent domain. But it's different when it's an externally trusted domain. Going from Essos to Seven Kingdoms, SID history needs to be enabled. Don't want to go into the entire topic of SID history. It was just a way from legacy corporations, it's a way from corporations to migrate other corporations into their own. So sometimes when company A acquires company B users still need to access resources within their domain. So they were like, all right, we'll give you this field called extra SIDs. So maybe in the old domain they were domain admin, but in the new domain they're not. But what ends up happening is that you can actually abuse if the extra SIDS field is enabled, basically saying I am an enterprise admin, and then you can access resources in the trusted domain that you wouldn't normally be able to. All right, so how do we check that? Well, we have a bidirectional trust. Let's actually go back and let's see what we can do. If you actually go into Bloodhound and we do, we'll do Daenerys. Daenerys Targaryen is a domain admin on in Marine. So since we have compromised Marine, you can actually get her hash and everything. But let's target King's Landing. And it actually gives you, a couple things on how to, escalate and get from one domain to the other. So we bring it over here. What I really want to showcase is that Daenerys Targaryen is in a foreign group. She is a member of this group called Across the Narrow Sea, which is part of the Seven Kingdoms.local. What I want to showcase here is that we can actually query this domain controller because she is in this foreign group. And the reason that matters is because we want to look for the different, to see if extra SIDS is enabled. So we're going to use our favorite LDEP tool, and we're saying use LDEP. Here is Daenerys Targaryen. Here's her password. It's burned them all. I don't want to go get her hash and everything, but like I said, since we've owned it, you definitely can. We're actually going to use this in a second here, but if you went over here and you did Daenerys Targaryen, you can get her hash. So that's her hash there. But yeah, here's her password. I just found it easier for me to just keep it down. Essos.local, and here's the LDAP server. We're looking at it from the Marines' perspective, from their current domain. What is our trust? So we trust 7 kingdoms, and it's just bi-directional. It's force transitive. So you got to remember when it comes to trust, you have to think about where you're sitting. We are sitting on Marine and we're thinking about who it's trusting. It's like, oh, I trust King's Landing. I trust the Seven Kingdoms domain, but it doesn't have extra SIDs enabled. So going from Seven Kingdoms to us, we don't have the extra SIDs enabled there. But what about the reversed? And this is where that across the narrow sea group comes into place. We can actually use Daenerys' account to enumerate the King's Landing domain controller, the Seven Kingdoms domain, which is at .10. And we do the same command, trust, and we actually get a bit more information here. Bidirectional trust partners sos.local. This is from the King's Landing machine. This is from the Seven Kingdoms domain. Force transitive, but also treat as external. This means that extra SIDs is enabled. So, in order to exploit extra SIDs, you can't use just an enterprise admin. Apparently, any RID of 1,000 and less is automatically filtered. But any group that has a RID of over 1,000, you can use to impersonate them. So if we kind of go back to Bloodhound, and if we take a look at, let's close this, King's Landing. Actually, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Seven Kingdoms, the domain. If you click on it, one of my favorite buttons is map the OU structure. Gives you a lot of output. This is what it looks like. It shows you like all the different groups and everything. This right here are the default groups. So all of these groups right here will have a RID of 1,000 and under. However, the ones down here, these are not standard, and these groups have a RID greater than 1,000. So if you click on small council, you can see here that its RID is 1,108. So we could use that one. So essentially what we want to find is a group here that can basically give us privileges to access, King's Landing. Like what's the lowest hanging fruit? So you can click through each one. And if we go to Dragon Riders, we can actually see that its RID is 1111. And if we go down to outbound first degree object control, what can it do? Well, this is great. Dragon Riders can DC sync to Seven Kingdoms. DC sync will allow us to get all the hashes in this domain. It was basically giving us like domain controller rights. So let's try to abuse that. So we come back over here. The first thing we need to do in order to build this golden ticket is we're going to use Mimikatz to get the KRBTGT hash. So kind of how I just showed you on how we got Daenerys Targaryen's hash. We can do this. We're going to use the sideload command and we're going to run Mimikatz here. And then we're going to enclose it, the whole thing in single quotes here. Then you do another space to do exit. If you don't do exit, it's just going to keep spawning. It's just going to keep going up. So you need to add in the exit. And if you want to do multiple commands, you got to do the single quotes followed by regular quotes. So did the hard part there for you. We're going to tell it to do a DC sync. The user is the KRBTGT because we need that hash. Domain sos.local. So we run this. And here it is. We got the hash. So let's actually take that. Actually, this is the same one here. So that's good. So we now have the KRBTGT hash. Like if we wanted to make any user local, we can make, any one and use a golden ticket locally. That's how you do that. And here we're actually going to use Rubius to create our golden ticket. So here we're saying Rubius, we're using the module golden, and we're giving it the RC4 hash. Before how we said that it's better to use AES-256 since that's like OPSEC safe locally. When you're jumping across trusts, by default it uses RC4. So there you go. So we're going to use that. We're going to give it a user of Bishop Fox, and then we give it the domain we're locally in. So ss.local and our SID. In order to find the SID, you can use different tools. My favorite way of finding the SID is to, come in here and use Bloodhound. It gives it to you. This is the SID for Seven Kingdoms. Go back to map domain trusts. Click on Essos. Here's the domain SID for Essos. That's my favorite way of doing it. It's super simple. It's right there for you. So we give it the domain SID for Essos, and now we're giving it the extra SIDs parameter, and you can distinguish that by the extra S here. And we give it the SID of Seven Kingdoms followed by the dash in the group that we want to be a part of, which is 1111, the Dragon Riders group. We tell it no wrap. There it is. We now have a ticket that will allow us to jump across the trust. Like I said, my favorite thing to do is to create net-only programs, so keep this tickets separate and it's a bit cleaner. We're gonna grab this ticket. We've already seen this before. Migrate TAC P to 2284. Use the new one we created, klist. You can see that we are the Bishop Fox user within sos.local, and now we can just ps exec over. We can actually run this one here. Let's run this. I'll show you what we just did. So we have this TGT that we have created for our Bishop Fox user, and since it has that extra SIDS parameter within it, we can now access the King's Landing remotely. You can use that with this sharpsec dump tool, also part of Sliver Armory. We're just giving it the target of King's Landing, and since we are part of that Dragon Riders group and we can do a DC sync, that's what we just did here. We basically just did a DC sync. This is like a secrets dump from the same tool set of Impacket, but instead there's this C# version called sharpsec dump, and that's what we're doing. So we actually got the administrator hash for King's Landing, and we can actually grab that. Go over here, evil winrm tac I 192.168.56.10 for the King's Landing IP user and administrator, and tac big H for hash. Who am I? IP config. There it is. And with that, we have successfully owned the domain, including King's Landing. And you can do the same thing here with a ps exec if we want to do that in King's Landing. So, why not? We'll give this one Bishop Fox Livestream as well. Not Sliver. That works. Why not? Give it a second to access and load. We should be able to get a beacon back. There it is. Use 1D. Who am I? Info. King's Landing. And that's it. And that's how you can actually own everything. And we did it all basically within Sliver. I always think it's a good idea to pair Sliver with other tool sets if you can. I always implore you to use your own tradecraft. Figure out what works best for you, and you can go from there. And last but not least, I do want to show the cleanup stuff afterwards. So we want to remove that resource-based constraint delegation. So exit out of this. It's actually going to kill our beacon, but it's fine. Oh, did not. It's good. Because we use ps exec. We can use this. We're giving it another Impacket module here. Delegate from Bishop Fox, delegating it to Marine, and we're saying remove, and we give it the Daenerys Targaryen domain admin account. So now it is cleared. You can confirm that with ldeep. There it is. It's gone. Oh, my computer account's gone. Oh, well, that one I will have to find again. There it is. We're using the add computer. Same kind of deal here. This time we're giving it the -delete flag. Successfully deleted Bishop Fox. And you can confirm that once again with the machines.
All right, that covers it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you learned something new about Sliver if you were tuning in for the whole entire thing. If you want to pick my brain, want to talk to me or learn more, or just talk anything, I'll be in the Bishop Fox RedSec Discord and the Hacker Lounge, and we can chat there. But thanks for tuning in. Till next time.